Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith Atibi. Here are some stories making rounds beyond the continent. And we begin the news in North America, where the Trump administration's latest crackdown on immigration is sending shockwaves through the global academic community. The U.S. has abruptly suspended all student visa processing, a move that already affecting thousands of international students, including many from China. Harvard University is at the center of the storm as the White House escalates its war on what it calls radical campus culture. International correspondent Afia Hagen has more on the growing fallout and what it means for global education.
A dramatic escalation in U.S. immigration policy. The State Department has ordered a halt to all student visa processing, sparking international outcry and leaving thousands of hopeful scholars in limbo. In a cable signed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. embassies and consulates were instructed to suspend all new appointments for student and exchange visas until further guidance is issued. It's the latest move by the Trump administration in a sweeping crackdown targeting foreign students, particularly those linked to protests against the war in Gaza. At the center of the storm, Harvard University. This week, students staged demonstrations after the administration moved to cut all federal financial contracts with the university, accusing it of fostering what President Trump called anti-American and radical ideology. Trump has claimed elite institutions like Harvard are breeding grounds for woke extremism and is now threatening to bar non-American students from admission. The policy shift has drawn international backlash. China's foreign ministry urged Washington to safeguard the legitimate rights of students, many of whom regard U.S. universities as global leaders in education. With more than 300,000 Chinese students in the U.S., the suspension sends shockwaves through international academic circles. Other nations are stepping in. Japan and Hong Kong have invited affected students to apply to their universities instead. Meanwhile, back in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Harvard is fighting back. The university has filed legal challenges against the visa bans and funding cuts, calling the measures unconstitutional and damaging to U.S. academic reputation. With federal contracts frozen and lawsuits mounting, the clash between the White House and one of America's oldest universities is growing ever more intense. And for international students, the fallout is only just beginning. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
And joining us on the news to discuss this is a political analyst, Joy John. She joins us from Washington, D.C. Joy, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. What problems could U.S. colleges face if fewer international students get visas because of this pause?
Thanks for having me. So, the pause could deliver a very serious blow. We're looking at financially to the U.S. Institutions. The colleges we're looking at. International students overall contribute under 6% enrollment. However, their tuition underwrites much of the financial aid for domestic students. In the 2023-24 academic session, they contributed 44 billion to the U.S. economy. Drawing closer home to Africa, Nigeria has become number one in Africa, sending students to the U.S. So when you look at the numbers, this new directive could potentially face a huge, the U.S. could face a huge loss that would threaten budget costs to the scholarship programs nationwide in the U.S.
And what could happen to schools like Harvard if they can't have international students anymore?
So for institutions like Harvard, international students are integral. They fund research, diversify classrooms, elevate global prestige. So losing international students for schools like Harvard is not only a dent on the financial stability of the institution, but it will also erode that global partnership and intellectual dynamism that elite universities depend on. So in the long run, it's not just the financial part we're looking at. It's about the reputation. It's about research, collaboration, and the very ethos of global excellence that's at stake here.
And so, if there's real proof that this protest that's happening on campus turning into anti-Semitism, or is it just a political excuse?
Is it just a political excuse? There are legitimate concerns and documented cases, and they must be addressed firmly. However, there's also a need for us to tread carefully. And let's be clear here, anti-Semitism must never be tolerated. We get that, but we must distinguish hateful rhetoric from legitimate protest. So painting all dissent as anti-Semitic undermines that free speech and also distract from addressing the real issues or the real incidents with the seriousness that they deserve. So we have to be very careful there and tread on very thin line.
And lastly, in your opinion, are these actions more about safety and politics, or are they just limiting students' right to speak freely, in your opinion?
I would say it's both. It's both here. There's an undeniable political undercurrent, of course, shaping these crackdowns. But while the safety here is non-negotiable, I think that there's a cornerstone of American democracy at stake here. It's a very dicey situation here. So it's dicey, but I would say it's both. So let's keep it at that edge.
And lastly, how do you think that these rules might change the way the world sees U.S. colleges and students coming there to study?
To study. Either way you look at it, America remains the greatest nation on earth, and a land of opportunity where anyone, anywhere, regardless of background, can come in, dream to become whatever you want to be and achieve that goal. Our universities here in the United States embody that. But if, the policies start to reflect exclusion instead of that openness that we're known to, that liberalness that we're known to, and that image over time will erode. And when that happens, over time, we risk losing our global influence to other countries that are eager to welcome the very talent that we're pushing away. We're looking at China, we're looking at Australia, Germany, and other countries, neighboring countries, even Canada, that are courting the bright minds that we're pushing away.
Well, Joy, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Joy John there, just an international public analyst, joining us live from the U.S. Now, let's now tell you that China is defending the recent passage of its aircraft carrier Liaoying near Japan, calling the move legal under international law. The response comes after Tokyo raised concerns over the vessel's presence near the disputed Senkaku Islands, which Beijing refers to as the Diaoyu Islands. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning has urged Japan to respond responsibly or reasonably and objectively as tensions continue to rise in the East China Sea. Separately, Beijing criticized the U.S. decision to pause new student visa interviews, calling for academic exchanges to remain unaffected by political tensions. China also announced visa-free entry for citizens from 4 Gulf countries, or 4 Gulf nations, a move tied to deeper economic cooperation between China, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East.
在有关海域的活动完全符合国际法和国际惯例，希望日方客观理性看待。我们注意到有关动向，中方一贯认为正常的教育合作和学术交流不应当受到干扰。我们敦促美方切实保障包括中国留学生在内的各国留学生的合法正当权益。 中方始终认为，只有坚持开放合作、创新和发展的道路，才能越走越宽。我们重视科技创新的国际交流，我们也认为科技创新的成果应当惠及。
Let's head to Europe, shall we, where a migrant boat carrying approximately 160 individuals collapsed near the port of Langristigin on the island of El Hierro in Spain's Canary Islands, leaving 7 people, including 4 women and 3 girls, dead. The vessel overturned just meters from the dock as passengers gathered to disembark. Among the deceased were a 16-year-old girl and 2 5-year-old children. Several others, including a baby suffering from breathing difficulties, were hospitalized, with 2 children in critical condition. Emergency responders, local workers and divers aided in rescue efforts. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez expressed his condolences and called for collective humanitarian efforts. The European Union is marking significant strides toward its 2030 climate targets. The European Commission now projects a 54% cut in greenhouse gas emissions compared to 1990 levels, bringing the bloc closer than ever to its ambitious goals. This figure is just below the EU's 55% target, based on a review of national energy and climate strategies. The data indicates significant progress as emissions have dropped while the economy has expanded substantially. However, the Commission noted ongoing challenges, particularly in forest protection and carbon storage. Concerns were also raised about the uneven progress among member states. Belgium, Estonia and Poland have yet to submit updated climate plans, prompting the Commission to call for immediate action. Looking ahead, uncertainty remains about achieving more ambitious 2040 climate targets.
And reaffirm our commitment to keep on track in the climate goals that we adopted not so far ago, and according to the Paris Agreement and according to science.
And European Union Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic has expressed optimism about ongoing trade negotiations with the United States during a media briefing in Dubai, highlighting the great intensity of the discussions and hoping it would lead to a fair and balanced deal. The talks focus on key sectors such as aviation, semiconductors, steel and critical raw materials. Sefcovic, he emphasized the importance of mutual cooperation to foster economic benefits for both parties. The EU aims to eliminate tariffs on industrial goods, while the US seeks to reduce its trade deficit with the EU. Both sides are committed to ongoing dialogue to resolve trade issues.
Constant contact with our American partners, and I would say that that is true for all levels. So our technical teams are talking to the partners in USTR. They are talking to the partners in the Department of Commerce, and together with Jameson Greer, ambassador who heads the USTR. And we had calls on Friday, Saturday, Monday, and I think we'll have another call on Thursday. And I think what, of course, we are looking at is first and foremost looking at all the tariff lines, what we can do there, how can we look from this new perspective for the market access. We are also discussing, especially with Secretary Latnik, how can we address the areas where I believe that we will be much better off if we would work together. I'm talking about our cooperation in the field of aviation, in the field of semiconductors, in the field of steel, in the field of different dependencies. The intensity is great, and I hope that this would bring us the results for the fair and balanced deal in the end. So we are going through these preparatory stages, so we would prepare well, I would say, in-person meetings, which we hope will take place in the short.
And you're welcome back. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is accusing Russia of stalling peace talks, claiming Moscow is not serious about ending its 3-year-long invasion. Speaking at a press conference in Berlin alongside German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Zelensky said they will constantly look for reasons not to end the war. He criticized Russia for failing to agree on a location for the next round of negotiations, calling it a clear sign of delayed tactics. The Chancellor Merz backed Ukraine's call for renewed diplomatic engagement and urged Russia to return to the table in good faith. With no resolution in sight, tensions remain high and the path to peace appears increasingly uncertain.
Вони постійно будуть шукати причини, щоб не закінчувати війну. Хоча, якщо чесно, виглядає не дуже серйозно. Вони не хочуть в нейтральну Женеву, хочуть в натівську країну, в Туреччину. Тобто, бачите, да? Тобто питання не в тому, що це за країна і в якому вона альянсі. Питання виключно в Путіні. Виключно в їх відтермінуванні. Постійно шукають причини, щоб відтермінувати.
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is accusing Russia of playing for time in the ongoing effort to negotiate peace in Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference in Berlin alongside Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Merz said Moscow appears to be dragging out the process rather than seeking a resolution. Zelensky echoed those concerns, saying Russia is deliberately stalling and that Kyiv has yet to receive a promise memorandum outlining Moscow's demands. Both leaders stressed the urgency of renewed diplomatic engagement, but warned that continued delays risk prolonging the war. The comments come amid mounting frustration in Europe over the lack of progress in peace talks, now more than 3 years into the conflict.
Wir zählen dabei auch auf die Unterstützung der USA, deren Engagement unverzichtbar für erfolgreiche Verhandlungen bleibt. Ich will an dieser Stelle dem amerikanischen Präsidenten für sein persönliches Engagement in den letzten Wochen ausdrücklich danken. Dagegen spielt Moskau auf Zeit. Aber ich kann für die Bundesregierung sagen, wir werden auch in diesem Jahr 2025 die Ukraine mit weiteren finanziellen Mitteln unterstützen. Und wir richten uns auch darauf ein, dass wir in zukünftigen Bundeshaushalten, die wir noch zu verabschieden haben, zum Beispiel den für 2026, entsprechende Mittel für die Ukraine bereitstellen. Wir tun das, um auch ein höchstmögliches Maß an Effizienz in der Beschaffung von Waffensystemen zu ermöglichen. Und deswegen wollen wir ja auch eine Kooperation eingehen, auch in der Produktion.
The Move Methods Association organized a protest in front of the Arras Bishopric on Wednesday, calling for the closure of the Riamont Catholic community in Pas de Calais. Participants displayed signs reading, quote, 330 victims of pedocriminality in the church, France complicit, and end quote there, and recreated a crime scene with children's clothes and crucifix. Now, Arnaud Gallis, co-founder of the organization, condemned the perceived trivialization and silencing of victims, emphasizing the need for justice and the closure of the institution. The protest was in response to comments made by Bishop Olivier Libond on May 16th, where he acknowledged the need for measures to address issues within Riamont, but also suggested a media frenzy surrounding cases of violence in Catholic institutions.
Dans l'Église et ailleurs, dans toutes les institutions d'ailleurs, c'est que quasiment tout le monde sait, à chaque fois on banalise. Et on vise en fait à réduire les victimes au silence. Et donc nous on est venu dire à un moment donné que finalement on ne va pas se laisser faire. On ne va pas se laisser faire et surtout on vient dire publiquement qu'on soutient les victimes. Et s'il faut qu'on aille jusqu'au bout, jusqu'à la fermeture de ce village, pour nous c'est essentiel. Et donc on se dit que ce monsieur-là, donc Monseigneur Le Borgne, il a aussi peut-être des comptes à rendre, surtout que depuis 1970, ce sont des fermetures successives. Donc on se dit au bout d'un moment, à quel moment, en fait, il faut combien de fermetures administratives dans ce pays sur une institution pour que ça ferme. En fait, c'est ça qui est complètement dingue.
And off to the Middle East, where tensions are rising at the United Nations as Israel's ambassador sharply criticizes the UN's handling of humanitarian aid in Gaza. Now, speaking to reporters in New York ahead of a UN Security Council meeting on the Middle East, Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon, he accused the United Nations of failing to distribute aid already available at the border. Now, the spokesperson claimed that over 400 trucks loaded with humanitarian supplies are currently waiting on the Gaza side of the fence. But in his words, the UN has, quote, failed to pick them up, end quote. Now, the remarks come amid growing international concern over the deepening humanitarian crisis in Gaza and continuing debate over how aid is being coordinated and distributed on the ground.
There are more than 400 trucks already on the Gaza side of the fence, waiting to be distributed, but the UN has failed to pick them up. We opened the crossings, we provided safe routes for those trucks, but the UN did not show up. So let me be clear, the UN must stop spreading panic and start moving aid. Put your ego aside, pick up the aid, and do your job. Well, we are not bombing the people of Gaza, we are fighting a terrorist organization. And as I said very clearly, we have two goals in this war. We haven't finished the job. We will not finish the war leaving behind 58 people. There are families waiting for them, and we are committed to finish this war by making sure the hostages are back and Hamas is out of the game.
Let's also tell you that funerals were held Wednesday in Khan Yunis for 2 men killed during a deadly strike near an aid distribution point in Rafah. The incident unfolded Tuesday when chaos erupted near the site. At least 48 civilians were injured after Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd of Palestinians. The violence began when large groups broke through fencing around the area. A distribution center operated by a group chosen by Israel to deliver aid into Gaza. Now, citizens say an Israeli military helicopter was seen firing flares overhead as gunfire rang out in the distance. The situation spiraled out of control when the distribution team reportedly lost control of the crowd, prompting the military response. And that's all the news we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember that you may send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And make sure to follow us as well. We're on social media or at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422. We're also on GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith TV. Good night.